Welcome back to the botany video class. Now this is the second part. In the previous part of the same lesson, morphology of flowering plants, we learned the morphology of root system completely. And we have discussed some questions also. Now it's time to check the answers for those questions. The floating roots are the characteristic feature of, this is the first question. As I gave you a hint, Jashea is the only aquatic plant and the other three are terrestrial plants. So the answer is Jashea here. The second question, monoliform roots are seen in. Here Dahlia asparagus mirabilis are the example for tuberous roots. In Momadica is the answer. In Momadica, we have moniliform roots. In the next question, root hairs occur in the zone of. So now you need to think of the diagram. Root hairs are generally present in the region where the cells are highly matured, cells are highly differentiated. So that would be from the zone of maturation. And the fourth question, Cuscuta shows. Cuscuta is the parasitic plant. So the structure pneumatophore is the breathing roots. Haustoria is the answer for this question. Cuscuta shows haustoria or sucking roots. Velamen is the tissue which is found in the epiphytic roots. And stilt roots are accessory roots which are produced from the thin, slender plants. Right? So for stilt root, we have discussed that example is a sugar cane, grass, wheat, maize examples. Pandanus, all those things. So Cuscuta, as it is a parasite, shows haustoria. Cuscuta, as it is a parasite, shows haustoria. The next question, root pockets. I gave you the hint, root pockets gives buoyancy. So which kind of plant would generally be buoyant, highly buoyant? Free-floating hydrophytes will always generally be very buoyant and they need a balancing structure. They are the root pockets. And the next one in Pandanus, root cap is. So in Pandanus is very familiar, very famous for their multiple root pockets. They have a lot of bunch of root cap would be there in all the roots. So this Pandanus produce multiple root cap, and the root cap is multicellular. So the answer goes as multiple and multicellular. So the fourth option is the correct answer. Okay, so those who got 6 on 6 are good. The others, please start referring the academy notes. And the next part what we are going to learn is the stem. So the stem is stem is the structure which develops from plumule. As like root develops from radicle, stem develops from plumule. Then when we think of the characters of the stem, generally the stem shows positive phototropism. That means the stem or the shoot system grow towards the sunlight and it shows negative geotropism. It will grow against gravitational pull. So it shows positive phototropism and negative geotropism. And in roots, you have seen that it's exactly vice versa, right? And then the stem bears nodes and internodes. The stem is a structure, or the shoot system is the structure which bears nodes and internodes. Now, what is a node? A node is a junction from where the leaf or a branch arises. So this is a node. In this picture, this is a node, this is a node. So a node is a junction from where the accessory structure, a leaf or a branch arises, or even a flower arises. What is an internode? The distance between two successive nodes. The distance between two consecutive nodes, neighboring nodes, is called an internode. So nodes and internodes are very prominent in the stem. And the branches are exogenous in origin. They are formed from the superficial structures. They are exogenous in origin. And the stem or the shoot system very often bear multicellular hairs or any extra appendages or appendages structures will be there. Okay, so that these are the characteristics of stem. And the next thing what we are going to learn is the forms of stem, different forms of stem. So here in forms of stem, the stem, we are simply saying that the stem can be a thick, hard, woody one, or it can be a weak one. But scientifically, we have to categorize stem, the forms, on the basis of its form. Forms of stem is a big classification. Already you would have heard about the classification of plant based on their habits. That can be herb, that can be a shrub, and that can be a tree. A tree is the one which bears too much of branches, and then the shrub is the one which is not highly grown, and too much of branch would be produced from the base of the stem. So it gives a bushy appearance. And then the next one is herb. Herb will always be with a weak stem. But this kind of classification, what you can see here on the screen, is only based on the stem. Okay, so this stem can be categorized into strong stemmed one, weak stemmed one, or underground stemmed one. So in strong stemmed one, we are categorizing that under 5 types. 4 is given here and 1 is scape. That is what given here. So the first one, excurrent method of excurrent kind of strong stemmed plant will be like an acropetal manner. It would be arranged. What is this acropetal manner? The longer, older trunk would be at the bottom or near the base of the tree, and the new branches will be near the top of the tree. So this is excurrent. It would typically forms a triangle shaped structure. So that is excurrent kind of strong stemmed plant. And deliquescent kind of plant is otherwise known as decurrent. That means it is a reversal of what is excurrent. So here you can see that older branches will be produced in a long manner, and then new branches will be produced from the bottom of older branches. So altogether it forms a huge crown on the top of the tree trunk. So this is deliquescent type of strong stemmed plant. So here the tree grows erect, and as they are producing too much of lateral buds than the apical bud, the tree attains a structure of a crown-like structure. Okay, and then the third type is caudex. Caudex means generally they are the thick plants. They are stout plants. So this is the best example for caudex. If you try for caudex kind of plants, generally it will take you to the cactus, or baobab kind of trees will take you to caudex type of plants. But literally speaking, when caudex means they are the plant which bears long, very long, stout stem, and the leaf, a bunch of leaf will be present on top of the stout stem. So baobab is a kind of caudex plant. Coconut is a kind of caudex plant. It's having a very long stem, and on top of it the leaf, crown of leaf is there. Palm is a kind of caudex plant. Okay, and so all these thick wood plant, stout plants which have a crown of leaves on top comes under caudex plant. And then culm. Culm is the fourth one. This culm is literally, culm means stem of bamboo. Stem of bamboo or stem of grass is called culm. Stem of grass or stem of bamboo can be called as culm. So what is it, culm? A culm means a stem structure which has a thick node and hollow internode. Listen to it carefully. Thick node and hollow internode. A stem which possesses a thick node and hollow internode are called culm. So you can see culm kind of stem, or culm itself is the stem. You can see culm in bamboo, you can see that in grass, you can see that in all kind of grass family members. Okay, like wheat, paddy, all those members, you can see culm. Okay, so these are the 4 strong stem types. One more thing, scape. So scape is, here the stem is condensed near the ground or sometimes underground, subaerial stem would be there. and all the leaves, crown of leaves will also be produced there, and which will be producing one long peduncle, and this long peduncle on which the inflorescence will be present. Stalk of the inflorescence is called scape, which will be strong enough. So scape is, technically speaking, scape is a peduncle arising from a compressed and a subterranean stem. Okay, so that is what a scape. But scape can be in monocots. You can see this kind of scape structure while they produce their inflorescence. So scape is also coming under this kind of strong stem classification. And then the next one is weak stemmed plants. And next classification is for weak stemmed plants. So again, weak stemmed plants are categorized into three major types. The first one is trailer. So to know trailers are very weak stemmed plants which cannot grow higher, or which will never grow up. Okay, which will never try to grow up. Instead, they will be lying on the surface, or they will be lying on floor. Again, based on their appearance, again based on their mode of existence, we are dividing them into three major types. The first one is procumbent. So for procumbent type of trailers, they always lie flat. Procumbent type of plants always lie flat. The best known example for procumbent type of plant is Bezella. This is the normal Indian spinach, or we call that Malabar spinach. So Bezella is a common example for procumbent type of trailer. And then decumbent type of trailer, the best example is portulaca, this parsley and portulaca kind of plants. They are the decumbent type of plants. So what happened in decumbent? They are horizontal for some length, and after that they will be forming a straighten up and trying to grow their inflorescence. They'll be having a straight bend to form a growing upward growth, and then they'll be producing the floral parts there. So that is decumbent. And then the third kind is completely growing profusely through all directions. The stem will be producing lateral buds in all direction. It will be producing the lateral branches. So that is diffuse. Diffuse best example is Boerhaavia. Boerhaavia is the best example for diffuse kind of trailer. So trailers again be divided into three: procumbent, decumbent, and diffuse. And the next type is creeper. So in creeper, we have runner, sucker, stolon, offset. So these things, all these kind of modifications are based on their nature, how much it's being changed or how much it's being moving up and down. So we will be learning about creeper kind of stem under the modifications we will be learning. Okay, in next thing we will be learning, and while we learn the modification, we will be learning this. And the next one is climber. Here the climber, by the name suggests, climbers means the plant parts which climb on something, right? The plants which climb on something. Again, climbers are divided into four. The first one is twiners. So twiners means the plant itself twines around another plant. The plant, as it is having a weak stem, the plant itself twine around another plant or another support. So they are called twiners or stem climbers. And again, we can categorize these twiners into two major categories. If they follow clockwise twining, or if they follow anti-clockwise twining. The stem climbers or twiners, sometimes they may twine around the host plant in anti-clockwise manner. At that time, we have to call it as sinistrose. Sinistrose. And if they are twining around the host plant in a clockwise manner, we call them as a dextrose. So dextrose and sinistrose kind of plants are there in twiners. And then here I have given lion or liana. So this liana or liana, these are the weak stemmed plants, but gradually while they mature, their stem becomes hard and woody. So these are lianes or lianas. So hiptage is a very good example. This is a hiptage plant. So hiptage is a very good example for this liana or lianes. Okay, so these are also a kind of climbers. And then we have a lot of different climbers. based on the part which is responsible to form the climber, which is responsible to create a climbing structure. We are categorizing climbers under various subtypes. That can be rootlet climbers. That means you can see that here, root climbers or rootlet climbers. Here the plant will be producing a root-like structure from each and every node. An adventitious root would be produced from each and every node, and that root, with the help of their sticky juice, they will try to climb on to the next host plant. Right? So they are root climbers. Pothos, Indian ivy, black pepper, tecoma are the best known example for this. And then the next thing is about tendrils. So tendril climbers are some thin leafless wiry structure. A thin wiry like structure will be produced by the plant, and this structure is called tendrils. So this tendril will be giving extra support for the plant to climb on to their host organism or to the host structure. So based on which part is involved in their climbing, tendril production, they will be categorized as stem climbers, as like in Passiflora. You can see that axillary stem tendril. This is Passiflora's axillary stem tendril. And this is apical stem tendril in Vitis. And here it is a leaf tendril. The tendril would be produced by leaf, that is wild pea or Lathyrus odoratus. And here you can see leaflet tendril, which is in sweet pea. And then garden pea also you can see the same. And leaf apex, you can see that leaf apex is turned into a tendril. So that you can see here, leaf apex is turned into a tendril, which is in Gloriosa superba. And this is stipular tendril. Stipules are modified into tendrils. Stipules are the small leaf-like structure which are found below the leaf base, stipules. So this stipule will change into a tendril, so that is stipular tendril in Smilax. And the inflorescence stalk is changed into a tendril in Antigonon. And also the inflorescence stalk is changed into tendril. Inflorescence tendril you can see in even the Chempaka, that is the Manoranjitam flower, that is Atrabotris odoratissimus. Atrabotris or Manoranjitam or Chempaka, that flower, inflorescence axis will be modified into hook-like structure. So here it is tendril is inflorescence stalk, Antigonon. And in Cucurbita you can see the tendril. This is Cucurbita tendril. Okay, so these are few examples for tendrils. So tendrils are small wire-like structure, wiry structures, leafless thin wiry structures which are produced by the plant from the stipule or from the leaf or from the petiole or from the inflorescence axis, which helps in their support, which helps in their in their climbing nature of the plant. So these are the weak-stemmed plants. Right? So in strong stemmed plant, we have studied about the excurrent, which is acropetal in nature. Pine, conifers comes under this kind of plant. And deliquescent or decurrent kind of plant, which will be producing too much of lateral buds than the axial bud. And caudex is the plant which is having very long, stout stem and a crown of leaves on top. And then culm is the monocot stem which has thick node and hollow internode. And then weak stem plants are first categorized as trailer. Trailer is having three subtypes: procumbent, decumbent and diffuse. And creeper will be having four subtypes: runner, sucker, stolon and offset. And climber will be having four subtypes: twiners, lianas, tendril, root climbers. And then the next one is underground stem. So with this underground stem, we are learning as modification of stem. The underground stem, they are not existing in the same form. They will be modifying into some other structure to perform some special function. What would be the special function? We can guess that. What would be the special function? They can modify their structure to do storage and also perennation, as most of these plants are perennial herbs. A herb which is surviving for a long time, they wanted to store food to overcome their unfavorable situation when they wanted to face. So that is perennation. At the time of their perennation, this stored food matter found in this plant, in the underground stem of this plant, will be responsible for the production of a new plant. Right? So for underground stem modification, we are learning 4 different kind of underground stem would be there, based on the shape they attain. So the first one, rhizome. You would have studied about this in your lower class itself. So rhizome, the best example for rhizome is ginger. What happens in rhizome? Rhizome generally forms a thick prostrate stem, which is generally it would be in horizontal form. It's very thick, very fleshy, and grows horizontally or dorsiventrally. Horizontal or dorsiventral growth of plant. How do we know that this is a stem? What are the characteristics of a stem? A stem generally possesses nodes and internode. We can see nodes and internodes here very clearly. And they'll be producing adventitious roots from the bottom of the plant, from the bottom of the rhizome, from the bottom surface. I told you that they are horizontally placed. So on the ventral surface, on the dorsiventral structure, the ventral surface completely will be producing adventitious roots. And they are having buds. They are having too many buds on them. So all these buds will be producing shoot system later. And they are completely branched. Rhizomes are highly branched. Right? So these are the characteristics how to differentiate rhizome. And the next category, next structure is culm. How is this different from rhizome? A culm, the shape itself is different from rhizome. Here it is horizontally placed, but here it is spherically arranged. It's very condensed. So this is a kind of condensed form of rhizome. And one more change here. Here the roots and buds arise only from the basal part, not on the top. Right? Here it is highly swollen and it's vertical in nature, not horizontal as like rhizome. But as like rhizome, they are producing too much of buds, but these buds are restricted to the bottom surface. And roots are produced on the bottom surface as like rhizome. Right? But one more change is there, one more difference is there. Rhizome is highly branched, but these culms are not branched. They are unbranched structures. Culms are unbranched structures. And then the next kind of modification of underground stem is tuber. So these tubers are irregularly shaped swollen stem, and these tubers store plenty of food in it. And these structures produce nodes and internodes. They are not much branched. Sometimes they may be producing branches too. And it bears scaly leaves, and the leaves never store food. They bear scaly leaves, but the leaves never store food. The food is found in the stem only. And they have axillary buds. And in potato, what we can see is the tuber. And that tuber of potato is having axillary bud. And we call that axillary bud of potato as eye of potato. Eye of potato is nothing but the axillary bud of potato is called as the eye of potato. And this tuber will never produce roots. This is very important. Tubers will never produce roots. Then from where the adventitious roots are produced? When the eye of potato or the axillary bud develops its own shoot system, later from the base of the shoot system, roots can be produced. Tuber will never produce roots. And the fourth structure in underground stem modification is bulb. The bulb is entirely different from the remaining 3 types because here the stem is highly condensed. It's just a very thin or a very small, very small condensed and reduced form of stem is present inside the bulb. So inside this bulb, a highly reduced form of condensed stem is present here. Highly reduced form. So as it is highly reduced, we can never see the nodes and internode in between. We may not be able to see nodes and internode in between. And then the axial buds are produced from the in between the axil of the leaves. Inside this bulb, you would have noticed that inside the bulb, fleshy leaves would be there, and outside we have the scaly leaves. And the the food material is being stored inside the fleshy leaves, not in the stem and not in the scaly leaves. The fleshy leaves, from the axil of the fleshy leaves, axillary buds should be produced later, which will be responsible in the perennation. And the dry scaly leaves are protective in function. The dry scaly leaves are protective in function. The stored food material will be generally starch, but not in onion. In onion, the stored food material is not starch. Okay, and again, bulb is divided into two different kind of bulb: tunicated bulb and scaly bulb. Tunicated bulb you can see in garlic, you can see in narcissus, you can see in onion. You can see the tunicated bulb. A tunica means a protective structure, protective covering. So the bulb will be having a protective covering outside. That is called tunicated bulb. But what happens in garlic? It's different from onion, right? So in garlic, we can see a compound tunicated bulb. Here the leaves are not concentric in arrangement, and the fleshy scaly leaves are called the cloves, and every ring of bulblet is covered by a whitish tunic. So this tunicated compound bulb is what? Garlic. It's a compound one, and what you can see in onion, it's a multi-layered one. Tunicated, but it's multi-layered, right? And the next kind of bulb is scaly bulb. So what happens in scaly bulb? So in a scaly bulb, the stem is completely reduced to a discoid structure. Like a disc, the stem would be, and they never store food. And they are highly reduced so that we could never be able to see the nodes and internodes there. And they be a large fleshy scaly leaves which store the food. And the best example for this is tulips. And in some lilies you can see the bulb. Lilies and some tulips, and in some lilies we can see the bulb. This scaly bulbs we can see. So this is modifications what we could notice in underground stem. And the next one, as I said just before, sometimes subaerial stem modification. Here we are learning about the runner, stolon, sucker and offset. These are coming under a common weak-stemmed creepers. Weak-stemmed creepers. So a runner, how do they differ from each other? A runner is a weak-stemmed plant which will be running on the surface of the soil. From each node and internode, new roots will be produced and new shoot system will be produced. The stem will be a slender one, weak one, which will be on the surface of the soil, and from each node it would be producing roots and shoot system, and it acts as a whole bunch of plant, right? Oxalis, grasses and marsilia forms this kind of stem propagation. They form this kind of stem. And the second one is stolon. So stolon is subterranean, means sub-ground level. And they are formed from one lower axillary bud. Like runners, they are also running horizontally all around the mother plant, and they have long nodes and internodes. And the tip of the stolon, these stolons are long, found near the ground, and they are arched. They are the arched plants. So these stolons are arched horizontal runners. Okay, arched horizontal runners. And then the next one, sucker. The sucker will be, there will be a prominent mother plant which will be having its own primary root, everything. And from the basal stem, basal node, a slender stem will be produced, and that plant when it grows subterraneanly, it will be producing, from each node it will be producing a new plant, and roots will also be produced. The tip of the plant will grow taller as like a new plant. So that is what in sucker. So this is subterranean, arises from underground buds from the mother plant, from the nearby ground, or the first node will be producing this kind of sucker plant. Like here the growth is oblique, so that the tip becomes aerial. It's oblique, the tip becomes aerial, and the other stem part is slender. And they are shorter than runner, and they are having thick and shorter internodes. They are shorter than the runner. Runner and stolon would be a little bit longer. And the next one is offset. Offset is generally a very thick one and a very stout one. Offset is generally a very thick and very stout. And here too, the nodes and internodes would be very few and very smaller too. Generally, you can find offsets in free-floating plants. The best known example for offset is Eichhornia pistia kind of plants comes under this category. Okay, so offset is very stout and thick. Sucker is very oblique. And this would be, stolon would be horizontal and arched runner. And the runner is very thin, slender, will be having a long internodes. Runner and stolon are having very long internodes. So this is about subaerial stem modification. And then we are learning the aerial stem modification. So in aerial stem modification, some of the aerial parts of the stem are extremely changed, modified to do some very special function. Here we are learning 4 different kind of aerial stem modification. The first one is phylloclad. I have given these 3 terms. This is the three reasons why they have extremely modified. First thing, they can modify so that they can do that climbing purpose, and they can do that modification for the defense purpose, or they can do that so that they will be doing photosynthesis. Okay, so while you learn the types, you will understand that better. The first one is phylloclad. So when we talk about phylloclad, the definition of phylloclad would be, if the stem is modified into a leaf-like structure, then we must call it as a cladode. A cladode is a stem which is modified into leaf-like structure. I hope you need to take notes. Cladode is a stem which is modified into leaf-like structure. What is a phylloclad? A branch. If a branch is modified into a leaf-like structure, then it is phylloclad. So a phylloclad is a branch and a cladode is a stem. Right? So you can see this phylloclad and cladode kind of modification in dry plants. When they wanted to avoid their extensive transpiration, the leaves will get shed off from the plant when they grow taller, when they grow rich. The leaves will shed off from the parent plant. And to do photosynthesis, the stem or the branch will change itself as like a leaf. They will be doing photosynthesis. Okay, so phylloclad, the best known example for phylloclad is Opuntia. Here the branches changes completely into leaf-like structure, flattened green leaf-like structure, and the leaf, either they can wither off or they will be producing the spines, leafy spines will be there. Leaves can be withered off, or sometimes they can be changing into a spine. Okay, the spines can be produced by the leaves. And what happens in cladode? Cladode is the stem. The entire stem is changed into leaf-like structure. They will be having 1 or 2 internodes. And they have just a limited growth, and the leaves are reduced to scales here. Here we can see scaly leaves. There it is spines. Here it is scaly leaves. And asparagus and ruscus comes under this kind of cladode. Opuntia is the best example for the phylloclad, and then Muehlenbeckia is there. Cladode example is ruscus and asparagus. And the next one is thorns. This is a thorn. So what is the basic difference between a thorn, a spine, and this thing? What you can see here is, what you can see here in rose, it looks like a thorn, but what rose possesses is a prickle. A prickle is the one generally being present in the rose. So how to differentiate that? It's very superficial. Prickle is very superficial. You can easily even try to detach it. You can try by yourself. Prickles can easily be removed. And thorns and spines are not like that. Then one more change is there. The thorns are actually the modification of stem. Spines are, just now I said that spines are the modified leaves. On phylloclad you can see spines. They are the modified leaves. Thorns are the modified stem. And prickles are very external structure. From the epidermis, these structures are produced mainly to give them protection. So these are prickles. Okay. So this thorns, one more difference, how to know that different, how to differentiate them. Spines and thorns will be having vascular connection internally as they are the leaf and stem. Prickles, they may not have the vascular connection internally. They don't have the vascular connection, or they don't have the vascular tissues internally. These are the, now we can know about the thorns. Thorns are the modification of stem, and they are either axillary or terminal, and they are deeply seated, and it would be very hard, and sometimes they may bear fruits. Okay, sometimes they may bear fruits. And what about prickles? Prickles are modification of stem, and they are highly irregular in their distribution. You can't find any regularity as like how you could see in a spine or in a thorn. Prickles are highly irregular. And the prickles, they never have any root, or they never have any fruits to hold. They never bear anything. They never hold anything. And they are always unbranched. They don't have any branches. Okay. And then one more thing, as I said now, they don't have vascular tissues internally, and they are very superficially attached. We can easily remove them off. They are very superficially attached. Spines and thorns are deeply seated. Prickles are superficially attached. So this is the difference between a thorn, spine, from a prickle. Right? And the next thing what we are going to learn is a bud. So we all know about bud. We are going to categorize buds into two different classification. One is based on the function. So based on function, we are categorizing bud as vegetative bud. That means a bud which later be able to produce vegetative structure like a stem or like a branch, or it can be producing a leaf and all. Bulbils are reproductive structure which will later be producing an entire new plant. When it gets detached from the parent plant, it will be producing one entire new plant. So this is based on function. And then tendrilar bud, which will be later producing the tendrils. Flower bud, a bud which later produces a flower. Mixed buds, a bud which will later produce any of this structure, vegetative structure. For example, in rose and all, you can see that mixed buds would be produced, which will be producing long stem, and then from the tip of the stem, flowers will also be there. So they are mixed buds. So buds can be classified under this 5 different type based on the function. And based on position, where this bud is being present. Terminal bud, that means on the terminal region of the plant. Plumule is the first terminal bud. Okay, please note that plumule is the first terminal bud of a plant, which is responsible for the entire growth of the plant. And then lateral bud means buds which are produced on the sides. Again, we are categorizing them as axillary bud, accessory bud, extra axillary bud. Axillary bud means the buds which are produced on the axil of leaf, on the axil. If this is the axil, if a bud is being produced in this part, it's called axillary bud. And then accessory buds means from the axil, on either side of the axil, accessory structures would be there. Like more than one bud would be there in accessory bud. A pair of bud will be there. For example, like in stipules. If the stipule is changing into a bud, that is called accessory bud. And then what is extra axillary bud? Extra axillary bud means a bud which is produced from the nodal region, but it's not from the leaf axil. It's out of the leaf axil. Here you can notice it very clearly. This is the leaf axil, and here you can see a bud which is also in the node region but not in the leaf axil. So this is an extra axillary bud. And the next type is adventitious bud. Adventitious buds means buds which are produced from a place which they are not supposed to be. Okay, so first one is foliar bud or epiphyllous bud. The best example for foliar bud or epiphyllous bud is the bryophyllum. Foliar bud means a bud which is produced on the leaf. So there is bryophyllum, foliar leaves, or epiphyllous bud. And the next one is cauline bud. Cauline means stem. Okay, cauline means stem. I guess you remember just now I told you opentia. Here this is phylloclad. Phylloclad means a stem. So if the bud is produced on stem, we are calling that as cauline bud. And the next one, radical bud, that is for the buds which are on the roots. Sweet potato is the best example for that. The buds which are produced on the sweet potato on root. And the next example, bulbil. Bulbil is the reproductive structure, a bud-like structure which is able to produce the entire new organism as a bulbil. So here you can see bulbil which is from agave. This is agave bulbil. Okay, this bulbil will get detached from the parent plant, will grow into an entire new plant. So that's it about the stem and buds. Shoot system is complete. Shall we go for the quick recap? So the first question, it's time to think whatever we have studied now. You can pause the video, take break, read the text, go through the materials and attend all these questions. So the first question, potato tuber is an underground stem because it bears. A potato tuber is an underground stem because it bears. Do we call this as underground stem because it has too much of food reserve material? No, right? And tuber, will it produce adventitious roots? No, a tuber will never produce adventitious root. What about chlorophyll? No chlorophyll in tuber. Think about this. And the next question, an underground specialized shoot with reduced disc-like stem. So when you hear the word disc-like stem, what would be the answer? Either it is bulb or bulbil or rhizome or rhizophore. Right? Think about it and write the answer. And the third question, the bulb of garlic is. The bulb of garlic is it a compound tunicated one or a simple tunicated one, or it's tunicated, layered or non-tunicated? I hope you can understand this. You can get this answer clearly. And the next one, largest bud. What is the largest bud out of this four? Largest bud. Either it is a cauliflower. Is cauliflower a bud? Cabbage. Is it a bud? Is it large? Onion. What kind of bud it is? You just think about it. And then agave. Right? And the next question. A stolon is. A stolon is. Even in the class I stress this. A stolon is. Either it is a horizontal underground runner, or it's an arch runner, or it's both A and B or none. Write the answer fast. And then the last question. Thorns differ from prickles in having. Thorns differ from prickles in having vascular supply, endogenous origin, bark, or all of this. Make sure you have written all answers, all 6 answers. We will discuss the answer in the next class. Before that, I need you to learn all the notes has been provided, which was provided from the school and also from the academy. It would be helpful for you to complete your portion and complete your work the same day when you are learning the lesson. Thank you.